Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whatever the I Want podcast, where I, your host, Gaby, get to talk about whatever the I want. And today's episode is going to be about my experience on Hinge. So I don't know if y'all remember what dating Wrapped looked like, but it's basically similar to like a Spotify or like an Apple Wrapped. It's where you create like a PowerPoint and you talk about your dating experience. So I made one for my friends, and so I'm going to use that as reference for today's episode. And for those who don't know what Hinge is, it's a dating app where the slogan is like the app that you're supposed to delete, which means that you're supposed to meet the love of your life on the app, and then you no longer have to use dating apps anymore. So I got my first dating app ever September 4th of 2022. I've only ever had one dating app. It was this one, and it worked. So I categorized people by red flag, which meant run, yellow flag, which meant proceed with lots of caution, a purple flag said have your guard up a little, and a green flag for go for it, boo. So the first person that I went on a date with, it was the first date I had been on since my previous relationship. And I did get kind of like red flag energy whenever we first started texting. He texted me as if he was like some camp counselor, like, oh, so excited to meet you. We'll do icebreakers. And like, it was just really, really excited. But I'm like, I mean, I don't know what dating is like. And so we were supposed to go get drinks at a bar, and he's like, oh, come over, like we'll have a drink before we end up going out. That should have been my first red flag, or I guess second one. And a friend told me like, no, you shouldn't do that, and I did it anyways because I didn't know any better. And we didn't end up going to a bar. He didn't take me out on any date. What ended up happening was I went home crying at the end of the night, and he said he would pay for my Uber, and he didn't. And he texted me the next day like, oh, what happened, blah, blah, blah. But he knows what happened. And it was not a date that was good. It was not fun at all. He had a toupee, and I guess he also tried making it seem like he was too smooth with it. But he like would keep adjusting the toupee. And I don't really care if you're wearing one. But also like you're a shitty person and your toupee is the least of your worries. You got to fix that personality first. And I also come to find out on the date, he lied about his age. He was actually much older. He was like 27, 28 on the app, but he ended up being like 34 or something in person. He was like, yeah, I changed it in like Vegas because me and my friends thought it would be funny or whatever. And I'm like, another red flag. So he didn't end up paying for my Uber either. I went home crying, ended up calling my sister. I was walking really late, in the city alone. It was maybe like midnight. I don't know. It was just really late. So he was a red flag, did not like him. And as soon after, I kid you not, like we texted and I was like, yeah, I don't want to see you again. Like I did not have a good time. Like I did not enjoy myself at all. He gaslit the shit out of me and was like, well, you did this and blah, 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 whatever. Absolute liar. And he also unmatched me and like did everything so fast. I didn't even know you could unmatch people. Like I was just still so new to the app. Anywho, next date. This person, we hung out a few times together. The first date that he wanted us to have was for me to go to a Cubs game with him and his family. And I really wanted to go to the Cubs game, but this time I listened to my friend and he was like, no, don't go to a Cubs game and meet his family on the first date. And I'm like, I mean, that makes sense, but also like free tickets to a baseball game, I'm there. And I also lived really close to the Cubs stadium. I mean, walking distance, you could hear people cheering from the stadium. Like I loved Wrigleyville. One of the best experiences I've ever had in my life was living in that apartment. But anywho, this guy was a good person. He was, not that races matter, but in case y'all are curious, the first guy was Black. This guy was Mexican and Asian. And he had just recently gotten out of a engagement. So eventually he told me he wasn't looking for anything serious. And so I decided from there to not pursue things with him. But we had watched some anime together, and I remember our first date, we went to a Gators bar, which I didn't like that he had anything planned. He didn't have anything planned. He picked me up and he's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I guess we can go eat wings and watch the Gators play. And there's a Gators bar in Chicago, so we went there. And it was my first time there, and it was good. He also asked me about my credit score on the first date, and I had barely gotten like my first credit card, and I was like, I don't know what the fuck my credit score is, like, and also like, why are you asking me that? Like, I don't know. And we ended up playing video games later on, and it was a lot of fun. I remember laughing till I cried, and it was also a hard experience for me because I guess I realized like I was moving on from my previous relationship. I didn't realize that I was still, you know, I didn't have feelings for my ex, but I was still like grieving the relationship. You know, this was just so new, so foreign, me going out on dates in a city that I'm new to, and, you know, meeting people. It was just a very new experience. So I, you know, got emotional, you know, trying to, I guess, process everything. So the next guy, he, if I remember correctly, was Greek and Cuban, and I wrote just no. So this person, this date, I wanted to leave so bad. We only went on one date. Ended up being a date that lasted like literally all day, and I did not want to be there within the first 5 minutes of meeting him. So not only do I see him and I'm like, this guy looks significantly older than his pictures, which that I don't really care about, like, you know, you gaining weight or whatever, but it's still like, okay, so you already kind of lied about that. And then within the first few minutes, we went to like a pop-up or like a grand opening of an event. I believe they had some different type of food that I've never had before. And he was complaining about me ordering a water bottle because the water bottle cost $2-3. He's like, are you freaking kidding me? This water bottle is so expensive, blah, blah, blah. And him and I just ended up sharing like I don't know if it was like a croissant filled type of thing. He got one, I got one, we split it, and I was like still so hungry. Then we ended up going to this place in the city that has like multiple restaurants. There was a new Greek place that he was like, oh, let's try it. And then he just ended up critiquing it the whole time. Oh, but even before then, we went to a barcade, and I ended up beating him at air hockey multiple times. And he was just constantly telling me, like, I quoted this. He said he was pissed at me. He said, I'm pissed that you beat me at air hockey. And I'm like, bro, you just suck ass. Like, what do you want me to do about like me kicking your ass? Like, I'm sorry, I'm better than you at these games. Like, it's just a game. It's fun. Why are you taking it so seriously? But he said that he was pissed. And throughout the day, he's like, do you think I'm weird? Do you think I'm weird? And I wrote in here, it felt like a work meeting because he was constantly talking to me about streaming and stuff, but he didn't ask me about any of my other hobbies, any other things. He was just more so talking about like analytics, how he wanted to make a cooking Instagram and was critiquing other cooking Instagrams. And we were just like, that's basically what we talked about the whole day, was like analytics and statistics and, you know, point of views. And just, it felt like a work meeting. I did not feel like he was interested in me. It felt like he was more so interested in the what is it called? The knowledge that I had. So the next person was a great guy. The first date, we got brunch. We went to a Cubs game, and then we went to an arcade, and we ended up watching anime too. Our second date, we went to a Bears game, and that's where I kind of got the ick, because he kept yelling "shut up" to the team, to the people behind us cheering for the other team. He's like, shut up. And I'm like, ooh, ick. My ex used to get mad at me for cheering for the Gators, and, you know, would get upset at me if my team would win and his team wouldn't, or would cry whenever, you know, Messi lost a game, or, you know, like he was just like way too invested into sports to the point where like you're getting emotional. Like that's an ick for me. But he did stay the night at my house a few times, never made a move. Like, I would even offer, like, do you want a t-shirt? Like, this man went to bed, like, completely clothed in jeans. Like, you know, it was very, very, very sweet. If you could leave reviews on dating apps, which I think that they should let you, I would leave him a really good review, because although, you know, there were some things about him that weren't my cup of tea, I still think he was a very stand-up guy. So here I wrote, good heart, has some growing up to do. And this guy was Black and Asian. I think he was Black and Filipino. And he was really tall. He also owned a thrift store, which I thought was really cool. He had like his own sense of style. So I really liked that. I was like, oh, like a lot of graphic tees. You know, I love thrifting. We never end up going thrifting together, but like I did think that we had that in common. So this next guy, he was white. He was probably Irish because he kind of was a little redheady. I bro, he ghosted me out of nowhere when I was in Cali for TwitchCon. And I was just like, oh, okay. But we had gone on 2 dates. We ended up going to a bar that I really liked and would go to a lot. And I ended up asking him like, hey, can I kiss you before the end of the date? And, he's like, sure, whatever. But one thing that I didn't like was he was so short. And I don't care that you're short. That doesn't bother me. But why on this dating app are you putting that you're 5'7" when you're like 5'3"? Because this man was damn near my height. I'm 5'1" for reference. Like I mean, he was probably 5'3" on a good day. Like this man was near my height. And I'm like, that bothers me. Like if you feel like you have to lie about things like that on your dating app, then you're looking for the wrong people. Because if somebody's going to swipe left on you, left means no. So if they're going to swipe no on you because of those things, that's a superficial person, and you don't want to be with that person to begin with. So like, why lie? And yeah, that didn't bother me. It didn't bother me he was short. It bothered me that he lied, because I'm like, if you lie to me from the beginning, like off the bat, like what else are you going to lie about? And we went to Top Golf. I kicked his butt. I played golf in high school, and yeah, he was just not good at all, but it was fun. And he was just not a good texter. He ended up ghosting me. And I do think that he probably had a girlfriend. Like I was really thinking about it. I'm like, he probably had a girlfriend and just like goes on dates to like, like experience or like to feel a thrill. It almost felt like that was the case, because like you're super invested in your time with me while we're on dates. And I mean, you could just be a bad texter. Some people are like that. It could just be speculating, but it definitely felt more of like a situation of like, no, you have something serious. You're just like looking to have some fun on the side. So this next date, this guy was, I believe it was Mexican and Native American. And yeah, all the people I went on dates with were guys. I identify as pan. There were a few girls that I talked to here and there, but nothing ever ended up transpiring to a date. I think it was just like some internalized homophobia that I've had like since I was a kid. I'll have to talk about that on like a sexuality episode. So yeah, all the people I went on dates with were guys. So this person had great energy. We went to a barcade that I really like in Boys Town, which is a queer area in Chicago. We had a lot in common in terms of spirituality and like our way of life. I really liked the way he thought, like his thought process. He was just really like high vibrational. I even wrote in here, like made me feel like I do when I'm with my family, like just really tingly. Like I just liked his energy, had really good energy. I didn't feel a spark, but I was like, oh, I could see something growing over time. We talked till 3:30, just like in his car. And I was like, I swear, like almost falling asleep, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like this man can talk. So I got a taste of my own medicine. I cannot date somebody who talks as much as I do, because like, damn, nobody's going to have any room to process or to listen if we're both just yapping the whole time. No moves are made, but I didn't like that he said he doesn't want to reincarnate and he wouldn't do it for love. I was like, if you met the love of your life, would you want to reincarnate for them? And he's like, no, I don't want to reincarnate. Like once I die, I die. I don't want to come back to earth. I don't want to experience life again. Like that, it is what it is. And I was like, okay, like I want to love this for the lifetime, like I want to reincarnate and experience that love all over again. But that was just, it was mostly the talking, like he just talked as much as I did, that it was like, I don't think that this could last in a relationship. Like I think one of us would have to be more quiet, and it ain't gonna be me. So this next person, he was white. Our first date, we got Thai food, which I paid. Not that it matters, but he was like, oh, like heading for the check. And I was like, oh, I can pay. And instead of being like, oh, no, I got it. He was like, okay, sure. He's like, I've never had a girl pay on a date before. And like I said, that stuff doesn't really matter. But other people were like, no, like, Gaby, a guy should pay on the first date. You should not be paying on the first date. They should be showing you that they're interested and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, like my opinions on that stuff have kind of changed. I do pay for dates, but they were like, yeah, on the first date, you shouldn't have paid. Second date, we got Mexican food. I wrote that he paid. Third date, we got American. We split it. I did like that he was a copywriter, because it was just something that we had in common. He was also in speech and debate, very nerdy. He also was, a short king, and I didn't really mind that too much. He was maybe like 5'5". We did have a nice first kiss. He had really pretty eyes. The only thing I really didn't like was that everything I said, like, oh, I'm like this or I'm like that in situations or whatever. He's like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah, that sounds good. Like, very like, yes, ma'am, like whatever you say goes. And I'm like, I can't date somebody like that. I need somebody who can disagree with me. I need somebody who can put their foot down. I need somebody who, doesn't just like succumb to everything that I say. Like, very simp energy is what he gave. And it's just not what I personally wanted. He also didn't have much dating experience. I think he had one girlfriend in high school for a little bit, but I mean, like, man, at that point he was probably like 24. Like, you should have dated some people for longer than that. So that was kind of a red flag for me. He would compliment me a lot. He's like, you're so pretty, you're so beautiful. I really like your personality. Like, he was very, very good with his words. I mean, he's a copywriter, right? He worked out every day. I did like that. Like, he kept talking about this one girl on our dates. Like, oh, I guess like, it was almost like a one that got away situation. And I'm like, oh, you should post me on your story to like make her jealous. Right. But, I had already known at that point, like it probably wouldn't lead to anything. So I say it as like a, like soft launch somebody. Like, I was explaining the soft launch situation, which is like, where you post somebody onto your social media without showing their face. So people kind of have an idea that you're seeing people versus like knowing that you're dating somebody and can see their face, or if you tag them, whatever. So he posts like him holding my hand. I have a screenshot of it onto his story. And I had said it was, to make this girl jealous potentially, because he would talk about her a lot. And I think he actually took that as like me wanting him to post me onto his story. And I will say a lot of these people like really enjoyed that I cosplayed, which was also like, they really liked my social media, which is a little like, okay, like they would talk to me a lot about that stuff, which I mean, those are things that I'm interested in, but like there's also so much more to me than what I post onto social media. So yeah, he was a green flag, but just was not it for me. This next person, I would leave an amazing review. And whenever I say review, I'm not talking about like, oh, physically, like, oh, we had a good kiss, whatever. I'm talking about like a good review, like you're a good person. I enjoyed your company, like as in you would be really good for somebody and it's just not me. So this person was Mexican. He was, I didn't like the way he dressed. That was something that I didn't like. And my best friend Christian was like, you can change that, like it's okay if somebody doesn't dress nice. And, he's like, love can grow. It doesn't need to be like a feeling or spark that you get on the first date. He was spiritual, which I liked. Our first date, we grabbed dinner. He was really easy to talk to. Our second date, we went to the movies. Our third date, we went to dinner and bowling. And I was like, okay, I like him. Like, he would call me all the time whenever he'd get off work. He'd call me at the end of the night, hey, I'm heading home. Like, what you been up to? Like, how was your day? Very family oriented. A lot of these guys were also go-getters. Like, a lot of them owned businesses, had duplexes, were renting them out, were like, building a foundation for themselves and building generational wealth, which I'm like, okay, I could get into that. I like this. And yeah, super, super great person, great gentleman. And he was very sweet. It definitely felt like things were moving at a slower pace. I did trying to find that like physical connection with him, like would try holding his hands, or even like at the end of our third date, like I went in for a kiss and he's like, you're not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to do that. And I'm like, well, I need to know if I feel some like type of spark. I need to know if, I feel tingly when I'm with you. And I did not necessarily feel tingly, and I was waiting for this feeling, for this spark, this like undeniable connection, and I wasn't getting it with any of these people. But I did end up getting it with the last person, and y'all need to know my business. No, I'm just kidding. I'll tell you a little bit. So this person is the reason why I ended up deleting the app. I wrote, this is so funny, handyman hot, goes to therapy. This person's Mexican, And it just felt so natural being with this person. And I could feel myself falling for this person on our phone calls. Like we talked a lot on the phone, for hours and hours before we ended up finally going on our first date. We ended up FaceTiming the night before. And, they were like, I really like your balance tattoo. And I was like, oh, I really want to get a butterfly underneath it. And they were like, wait, what? And I was like, And he's like, you'll see tomorrow. And on our first date, this person got me a stay balanced sticker. It said stay balanced, and it had a butterfly in the middle of it. And they also got me red velvet cupcakes and a bottle of wine. This is the first person who ended up buying me anything on any of our dates, but especially, I mean, in terms of like a gift, I feel like this was the first person who like courted me. And on a lot of our dates, this person would bring me flowers, would write me cards, would write me letters. And I remember one time I was showing them my oracle cards, and they just looked at me and they said, the sun radiates off of you. Me muero, like just so romantic. And that person is the reason why I deleted the app. But it was a roller coaster to get there. I mean, it took, I don't even know how many people I mentioned. Like, I think that might have been like 10 people that I went on dates with. That doesn't even include how many dates I went on with each individual person. That doesn't include all the texting that would happen in between here with other people. Remember there was one guy who was like, yeah, let's meet next week on Thursday. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Did not text me anytime in between then. Then Wednesday comes around. He's like, are we still going on a date Thursday? And I'm like, honey, you have not texted me in a whole week. Like, I have plenty of suitors here. These DMs are overflowing. You snooze, you lose, And then for funsies, I decided to make the dating age range. I think I had it at that point from like 24 and up. I'm like, I can't date anybody younger than me. To then I'm like, okay, let's throw it to like 70 years old. Like, let's see what sugar daddies or whoever we can call into us at this point. And so I increased it. And then I was like texting people. Actually, this was before I ended up meeting this person. There's no way that I was doing this before I met the final person. But I was getting ready to delete the app because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not meeting anybody. Like, I had fun. It was just nice to go on dates and to meet people, but it's not working for me. And eventually I ended up meeting the last person, made me delete the app. But in between that, I was like, yeah, let's increase the range. And then I'm talking to people who have like 15-year-old kids, and I'm like, okay, that would totally not work. Like, I'd be a hot stepmom, but I am not ready to be a stepmom. And it was just so interesting that you could set so many parameters. Hinge worked for me. I ended up deleting the app, and what I did like about it is how picky you could be. So I could put that I'm not interested in people who are atheist, which that is something that I did put because I wanted to be with somebody who at least believed in something. Like agnostic, I could do, atheist, no. So then I set that parameter on the app. You can set parameters in terms of age, in terms of do they smoke, do they drink, religion, say that you only want to be with people who are Muslim, you're able to change that. Like, I liked that you could be very, very picky and very upfront about like what you do want. Like, this is who I am. I do or I don't smoke. I drink sometimes, or I am really heavy into working out. I'm very active. I have kids. I don't have kids. I'm in an open relationship. Like, I liked that you could be so vulnerable and so like, this is what it is. You like it or you don't. And so I recommend Hinge for anybody who's looking for a relationship. I have recommended it to friends of mine, and they have met their long-term partners on it. And I think online dating is something that you have to get used to. I mean, if I were ever back on the market, which I mean, obviously, let's hope not. But if I were ever back on the market, I don't know if I would get a dating app, but if I did, it would be Hinge. And man, Hinge, sponsor me, seriously, because your app do work. Yeah, Tinder, I was like, no, people hook up on that. Like, I don't want a hookup app. I want to meet somebody long term. Bumble, I was like, like it's still kind of a hookup app. Like, I wanted something like more serious. It's like known for a more serious app. Yeah, so that's my dating experience, y'all. Feel free to share yours. Let me know how you met your partner in the comments. And don't forget to leave this podcast a review. Happy Valentine's Day, and I'll catch you on the next one.